İmamoğlu. This comes after his detention 4 days ago, which sparked Turkey's most severe unrest in more than a decade, as reported by one of his lawyers to the media. Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu appeared in court for questioning. Prosecutors grilled him over allegations of corruption and links to terrorism. He has denied those charges. His detention earlier this week sparked nationwide protests. Prosecutors are seeking to imprison his imprisonment along with 4 aides ahead of his trial. Meanwhile, thousands gathered outside Istanbul's municipal building in Saraçhane, defying a ban on street demonstrations. The restriction initially imposed in the city has now been extended until March the 26th. Demonstrations have spread to 55 of Turkey's 81 provinces. The unrest marks the country's largest street protests in more than 10 years. Yesterday, riot police moved in on protesters at City Hall. Officers fired tear gas, forcing many to take shelter inside the buildings. According to state media reports, multiple arrests were made, but official figures remain clear. CHP leader Özgür Özel addressed the crowd, claiming over 500,000 protesters had gathered. Turkey's Journalists Union reports that many were beaten, shot with rubber bullets, and had their equipment destroyed. Reporters Without Borders condemned the violence, calling it heavy-handed and completely arbitrary. The group is demanding accountability and punishment for those responsible.
Sokaklara çıkarak yanına sol örgütleri, marjinalleri, vandalları alarak milli iradeye parmak sallama dönemleri artık geride kalmıştır. Sokak terörü üzerinden siyasete ve adalete istikamet çizildiği günler eski Türkiye ile birlikte tamamen mazide.
We are joined to discuss this further with Professor Rohan Gunaratne once again. Professor, case say about the state of democracy and rule of law in Turkey under Erdogan? Obviously, we've seen restrictions imposed by the government. We saw a ban on social media very briefly. What does it say about the state of democracy, freedom of speech in the state of Turkey right now?
Erdogan, what he has done to the Istanbul mayor clearly demonstrates that the people of Turkey are angry. Erdogan is a very powerful man. Even today he is very powerful. Losing his grip over Turkey. You yourself mentioned that of 81 districts, in 55 districts there are surging protests. These protests will grow over time and Erdogan will lose power. And of course, İmamoğlu will become the next leader of Turkey.
Professor Gunaratne, are we seeing a broader pattern of authoritarian consolidation in the region, from Turkey to other parts of the Middle East?
Certainly the leaders like Erdogan, they have to demonstrate power and strength. So this is not only Turkey, it is a feature throughout the Middle East. And protesters with demonstrations, those leaders will have to govern, will have to rule with a tight fist. And that he is doing. He's deployed the military, he's deployed the police, he's deployed the security to arrest him not only in the physical space, but also in the virtual space. So he's exercising state authority for him to remain sustained in power. But there comes a tipping point where the protesters and the demonstrators and the opposition will overwhelm him. And at that point, to flee Turkey.
Professor, could you tell us a little bit more about who is İmamoğlu and why did Erdogan see him? Why would current
Imam popular leader in the politics, and he's also fearless. He's a champion freedom, and if you look at the young, influenced by the West, especially Erdogan's style of political Islamists. They want Turkey to be more like a European country than a Middle Eastern state. So in many ways, what we have seen is a clash of ideologies. And this itself is going to change Turkey. And the new Turkey will identify more with Europe than with the Middle East.
Professor Rohan Gunaratne, thank you very much for joining us. We now move on once again. The British government